Visa wants to know, where would you like to be? Whether you're a super fan or just in it to win your league, Visa knows we want to spend less time standing in line and more time pursuing our passions. That's why for over 60 years, Visa's been adding innovative plays to the way we pay. From tapping to pay to getting paid in 30 minutes or less, they're giving businesses and consumers more tools to do just that. They know that every Visa transaction is a promise, whether it's a street vendor in front of the stadium or picking up the latest NFL gear online. Visa wants to provide us with the most secure and easy payment experience possible so everyone, everywhere can get to where they'd like to be. Visa, everywhere you want to be.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Monday. This is First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's Chris Canty. This right here is Nick Wright. Good, sir. Everyone had a good weekend?
Good weekend.
Yeah?
Good weekend. A lot of going on is in week 9 of the NFL, so let's get to it.
A ton going on. Big Monday show for you. Baker and the Browns might have hit rock bottom. Packers suffering a stunning loss to the Chargers, but we got to start with a little Sunday night football. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens hosting Tom Brady and the undefeated Patriots. Lamar was electric. 3 touchdowns, and the Ravens as a team had 210 rushing yards, the most against the Patriots since the 2014 season. Meanwhile, on the flip side, Tom Brady struggled, posting his second lowest passer rating in a game this season. And the Patriots uncharacteristically lost the turnover battle, something we never say. Ravens win 37-20, handing New England their first loss of the season. Here's Lamar after the game.
I feel like our team already knew what we was capable of, We just had to show it, and we did that tonight. We just have to build off that. We can't just get on our high horse, feel like, we just won the Super Bowl because we didn't. That's just one regular season game. We got to continue to build.
So the Patriots finally played a good team with a good quarterback and a good coach. How did the Ravens get this win over the Patriots, Nick?
Well, a number of different ways. Primarily, the Patriots committed the mistakes that teams typically commit against the Patriots. It started in the very beginning where you hold Baltimore to a field goal after a very long drive, and it's New England who's jumping off sides on 4th and short to give Baltimore a new set of downs. When you're climbing back into the game, it's New England who fumbles the football and has it returned for a touchdown in what was a critical moment. It's when you're trying to get back in the game, it's New England who can't get off the field. Back-to-back 14-play drives that took up nearly 18 minutes of game clock for the Baltimore Ravens. But the other thing that was very uncharacteristic for the Patriots over these last 20 years, Tom Brady looked across the field and had to say, oh, that guy's better than me. The other team had the better quarterback. Now, will that be the case 2 months from now? I don't know. But up to this point in the season, Lamar has been a far better player than Tom Brady. And last night, at every opportunity, Lamar showed you his time is now, and Brady's time does appear to be fading. There was no moment, there was no channeling some GOAT greatness for Brady last night. And Lamar, at every opportunity that you gave him, oh, it's 4th down, he can throw the football. Oh, it's a critical 3rd and 5 when New England's trying to get back in the game, he can throw the football. And then to ice the game, he can run the football, whether it's out on the edge or at the very end when he got pulled in by Orlando Brown Jr. So the Patriots made non-Patriot mistakes, and the other team had the better quarterback and maybe the better team. That's how they won that game yesterday.
Well, Nick, we talked about it on Friday coming into this game. There was no good defense for a quarterback that can lead the run game of the opposing offense, and that's exactly what Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator for the Ravens, and John Harbaugh went into this game thinking. We are going to utilize Lamar Jackson's ability to run the football and keep that New England Patriots defense off balance. The Patriots tried to show a lot of different looks, whether it was man coverage, zone coverage, blitzing, dropping back. It didn't matter. Baltimore had an answer for everything that they presented to them, but that shouldn't surprise us because Baltimore's coming off of a bye week, and John Harbaugh is now 10-2 as the Ravens head coach coming off of a bye week. Now, it's surprising to see a Bill Belichick-led defense struggle against a young quarterback coming into that game last night. Bill Belichick had won 21 straight games against first or second year quarterbacks, but the overall poise from Lamar Jackson is what paved the way for this team to be able to take advantage of the miscues that the Patriots had last night.
You said that Tom Brady's light was finally starting to dim a little bit last night, that he looked across the way and he looked at the better quarterback. Is that what was happening, or was this Patriots offense finally exposed? We all have been talking about it. The offensive line is banged up, beat up, and basically non-existent. They got nobody to throw the ball to, and when they did, guys like Edelman were dropping it or turning it back over again. Were they finally exposed last night?
Well, I mean, they were exposed, but it's part of that reason is because their quarterback's not very good right now. We can't just no one disputes. Lamar said it after the game. Marcus Peters said it after the game that Tom Brady's the GOAT. But up to this point in the season, he's been around the 11th, 12th, 13th best quarterback in football. He has been playing under the most advantageous circumstances any quarterback can possibly play in. They always have the lead. The other team is always pressing. And as an added benefit, aside from the Buffalo game, they had played bad defense after, not just bad quarterback, bad defense after bad defense. And while Julian Edelman and Mohamed Sanu are not a great wide receiving core, the guy who right now is the league MVP in Russell Wilson is doing it with a rookie who maybe should be a shot putter, and Tyler Lockett, who he's turned into a star. Like, the offensive line is not good right now. I understand it. And they abandoned the run yesterday to a degree I didn't think they would. They didn't seem comfortable running the football. But some of this has to sit on Brady's shoulders as well, along with the 9 Super Bowls, the 3 MVPs, and the 6 Super Bowl rings. He has not played very well, and yesterday he was clearly one of the Patriot weak links.
Well, listen, Tom Brady and that Patriots offense was largely one-dimensional because before you could blink, they're down 17-0. The Baltimore Ravens couldn't have scripted a better start to that game. I mean, you have 2 11-play drives to start off that game, and you got a 10-point lead, and then you all of a sudden are able to tack on to that with another extended drive. But then you look at what the Ravens defense did, and we talked about it on Friday with Patrick Owusu, their middle linebacker, coming back. He was an impact player last night. He was the one that forced the fumble on Julian Edelman early in that third quarter. But seeing how that defense was able to stop the run, Brandon Williams, Michael Pierce, their 2 nose tackles, that allowed their defensive coordinator, Wink Martindale, to heat up the pass rush. And we knew the Ravens couldn't rush the quarterback with just 4. We knew they were going to have to be creative with it. And they were able to do that in large part because they're working with a lead for the entire game.
I have to ask you about this Patriots defense. The defense that statistically was one of the best we've ever seen suddenly looked... Well, they looked like any other defense yesterday. Have we been sort of miscalculating because of who they've been playing up until now?
Listen, I still think this is a great, great defense they have in New England. Now, I did think Baltimore was going to win. I didn't think Baltimore was going to win by scoring 37 points, and you can say 30 on offense because there was the scoop and score 7. We knew that they were susceptible to the run game, which is one of the reasons Baltimore could present a particular issue to them. Even Football Outsiders with their DVOA stat, they adjust for competition. And even adjusting for competition, Canty, this was a historically great defense leading into last night. I know a lot of people are going to say the defense got exposed yesterday. To me, this was more indicative of a Patriots offense unable to get things going, and the defense played poorly, because when the Patriots did get back into the game, it was because of 2 Baltimore mistakes. 2 Baltimore fumbles set up short fields that allowed New England to get 10 points to make this closer at halftime than it otherwise would have been.
Yeah, the game flipped on that Cyrus Jones muff punt. I mean, if he doesn't have that play, it could have got ugly.
24-0.
It could have got ugly a lot earlier in that game. But you talk about the adjustments in the X's and O's and how good that Patriots defense is. It's hard to adjust, Jenna, for the overall physicality that the Baltimore Ravens are bringing to the table. And that's the one thing that we don't talk about. Physicality neutralizes the talent on the opposing side of the ball, and that's what Baltimore did a good job of dominating last night. The offensive line, they did their job, Marshall Yanda and company, and then the defensive front for the Baltimore Ravens, keeping the run game for the Patriots in check. They weren't able to have balance on the offensive side of the ball, and that's what made Tom Brady struggle. A lot of hits on Tom Brady. He looked uncomfortable all night long, and they just couldn't get anything going.
And Kenny, Belichick and Josh McDaniels and Tom Brady knew they couldn't handle the physicality of Baltimore defensively, and that was shown at the very end of the first half when New England has a chance to all of a sudden, are you kidding me, this game's going to be tied at halftime, 1st and goal from the 6. They only run the ball once. When they get 4th and goal from the 1-yard line with 10 seconds left, all of a sudden you see who's their kicker now, Folk. You see Nick Folk trotting onto the field because they didn't believe they could get that 1 yard. Not very Patriot-esque historically, but it wasn't shocking to see Belichick take the points in that spot there because I didn't think they'd get that yard either.
Enough can't be said, though, about Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson. Time now for Put a Grade On, sponsored by CarMax. Lamar was so good last night, becoming the youngest quarterback to beat a Bill Belichick coach team since Ben Roethlisberger back in 2004. Nick, put a grade on Lamar's night.
Oh, you got to give him an A+. He took care of the football. He made critical plays with his arms and his legs, and the moment was not too big for him. He played as well as you can play, given the circumstances and given the competition of that Patriots defense. I give him an A+.
Nick, I'm going to give him an A just because I can't give you an A+ unless we're talking about a playoff game.
Okay,
like
sure.
That, when the magnitude is a lot greater. But you're right, for all the reasons that you just outlined. And I thought he did a great job of ball handling. That's something that's understated when you talk about running the style of offense that they have and all of the different options that he has at the point of attack in terms of whether he's going to give the ball to the running back or whether he's going to keep it. He did a great job of taking care of the football.
Browns down 5 in the fourth, 4th and 4. Baker can't hit Jarvis Landry, gives the Broncos the ball back with no timeouts. So watch this replay. Odell was wide open, calling for it. Baker didn't even see him. OBJ reportedly heard saying on the sideline after the play, I can't get the ball to save my life. Cleveland loses the game. They fall to 2-6 on the season. Nick, how disastrous has this season been for the Cleveland Browns?
Worse than anyone possibly could have imagined, even the biggest Browns skeptic, one of whom might be sitting directly to my left. Nobody could have thought it would be this, that Baker would play in a game against a guy who hasn't taken a meaningful snap since the Liberty Bowl 4 years ago and be the worst of the two quarterbacks on the field.
That's what you said Friday.
No, nobody could have thought that while Freddie Kitchens, we knew, would have his first-year coaching issues. We were joking during the break about being confused by daylight savings time and the time change. Freddie Kitchens, I would imagine, is confused by daylight savings time and the time change. He is yet to realize the value of timeouts. The team is yet to understand the critical moments that swing football games. We always talk about, well, if you did better in one-score games, this is a one-score game league, Canny. The vast majority of these games come down to one score, which means they come down to a couple gotta-have-it moments. And as pardon me, as poorly...
Getting choked up. I understand.
I bet a lot of money on this team. As poorly as the Browns played, they were down 5 in the red zone, on the mouth of the red zone, with an opportunity to win this football game. And 3rd and 1, Baker doesn't have the wherewithal to check out of a run play that was drawing dead from the word go. So he makes a mistake there where they use 3 yards, and then it's compounded by Freddie Kitchens not understanding that while this 4th down play is critical, if we don't get it, as long as we don't burn our last timeout, burn 40 seconds of the play clock and our last timeout, we're still alive. We're still fine. They, of course, then burn the full play clock and their last timeout, and they throw to Jarvis instead of the open Odell Beckham, and they're sending Beckham on a go route when you only need 4 damn yards, and Baker's never going to look for him. That's how you become the most disappointing team in football, and Baker's going to be the quarterback. Freddie Kitchens is not going to be the coach, but there are systemic issues with the Browns who can't blame the schedule anymore because you weren't even facing the Fighting Joe Flacco's. You were facing Brandon Allen. And you lose that football game with your season on the line, give me a break.
Yeah, it's inexcusable. And you said it on Friday. You can't save your season with a win in Mile High, but you can keep it from imploding.
Yep.
But I think everybody that was on that Cleveland Browns bandwagon before the season started jumped off with this loss because this is embarrassing. Clearly, this is an inferior team, the Denver Broncos, talent-wise, than what the Cleveland Browns are working with. But it comes back to execution. Now, I'll give the Browns a little bit of a backhanded compliment because they didn't turn the football over, and by and large, they didn't kill themselves with penalties.
The penalties were good.
But they were 1 for 5 in the red zone. You got to be better in the red zone when you have those opportunities. And on 3rd downs, when the Denver Broncos defense had to get a stop, they were able to come up with it. And to me, that's the part of it with play calling from Freddie Kitchens. You've got to find a way to get the ball to your playmakers in those situations. I can understand why Odell Beckham is frustrated. Maybe he should figure out how to get into his head coach's ear rather than worried about what kind of cleats he's going to wear. But it's a situation right now with the Cleveland Browns. they don't have any leadership and they don't have any answers.
None.
There's nowhere for them to turn right now. And so this thing is a powder keg right now. I'll be interested to see where it goes, but there's no way that anybody can look at this Cleveland Browns team and say they can salvage this year.
A couple years ago when Alex Smith was still the quarterback of the Chiefs, they lost a playoff game where they scored 2 touchdowns and the Steelers scored 0. The Chiefs lost, and it seems like an algebra problem with no solution. Wait, how is that possible? The Browns lost a football game where they had 5 trips to the red zone and their opposition had 0. The Broncos had a couple huge plays, which is why you can score without getting in the red zone.
But why did they have those huge plays? You look at the missed tackles on that Noah Fant touchdown pass. It was a 10-yard throw that ends up being a 75-yard gain. You cannot allow that to happen.
And the safety who missed that tackle, by the way, after the game was tweeting out death threats and being escorted out of the locker room. The Browns' first 5 trips to the red zone. 1st and 10 from the 17, field goal. 1st and goal from the 4, field goal. 1st and 10 from the 19, field goal. 1st and 10 from the 14, turnover on downs is how all those drives ended. It's inexcusable. It's absolutely inexcusable. And for Baker, I know people are going to kill Odell because he finally said something that, granted, it wasn't to media, but it was within earshot of media because it was on the sideline, and he wore those goofy Joker cleats. But for Odell to not have more than 4 red zone targets this year is an embarrassment and a failure of coaching. For Odell's only touchdown this year to have come on the slant and go where he had to run 80 yards with the football is an indictment on the coaching and the quarterback play up to this point this season.
Listen, coming into this season, all we talked about was how skilled this team seemingly is at almost every position. That there's no way they can't win. They got a quarterback who was lights out towards the end of last season. They've got Odell Beckham. They've got Chubb. They've got Myles Garrett on both sides of the ball. A new, fresh head coach. I mean, things were promising. And then you look at where they are right now, and then you hear comments like what Odell made. And I understand it. I get it, especially you see it on that play. Have they wasted Odell Beckham on this team this year?
Well, it certainly feels like it. I mean, they didn't trade for Odell Beckham Jr. and thinking they were going to be a 2-6 team at the halfway point of the season, but that's exactly what's happened. And so what everybody has to do is take a step back and look in the mirror because the job that they've done up until this point isn't nearly good enough. And so we knew coming into this year it was going to be a question mark on what was going to happen with this team once they hit adversity. Well, adversity's here now. And so we'll get an opportunity to see whether they're able to rally or whether or not this thing is going to fall apart. But, I mean, this team has underwhelmed in terms of their performance. And the fact is, Jenna, I don't trust the leadership within the organization to help these young guys get this thing turned around. I just don't.
And, no, they're not going to rally. The time to rally was yesterday. You're facing a Denver team who's starting a quarterback no one has ever seen since the University of Arkansas a half decade ago. The time to rally was if you do look at the schedule, not only your own schedule, but they didn't know Baltimore was going to beat the Patriots. It's okay, we win. Baltimore probably loses. Then all of a sudden, we're 3-5. They're 5-3. We've already beat them once. We get them again. Now you play Buffalo. Buffalo's been better than them all year. Then you play Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh all of a sudden's won 3 in a row. Browns ain't won 3 games all year. Listen, I was the captain of this bandwagon. I got to own it. Like, it's not that the bandwagon's off the track. It is flipped over, it's engulfed in flames, and no one's pulling anyone out of it. I mean, this is a lost season for this organization, and the type of season that can not only undo the goodwill of last year, but make you feel the worst Cleveland can feel, which is same old Browns.
Bill Parcells used to say it all the time. The best players don't always make the best team, but the best team always wins. Everybody made the Cleveland Browns the offseason champion.
Yep.
Look at where they are right now.
You mentioned Brandon Allen. Brandon Allen, Josh Allen, Kyle Allen are combined 12-3 this season. Baker Mayfield, with all that promise, Heisman first pick, all of it, 2-6. Monday Night Football here in our backyard in New York. Dak and the Cowboys in town to play the Giants tonight. Cowboys have won 5 straight games against their NFC East rivals. However, you can never really take a divisional opponent lightly. Chris Canty, should the Cowboys be on upset alert tonight?
Yeah, the Cowboys better be ready for the New York Giants because, I mean, you're catching the Giants at a time where they're trying to get healthy. Now, they're not going to have Sterling Shepard, but they will have Evan Ingram, they will have Golden Tate, and they will have Saquon Barkley. So this is going to be a test for that Dallas Cowboys defense, but it'll also be our first opportunity to look at how Rod Marinelli uses Michael Bennett, the defensive end that they traded for from the Patriots, and how he sprinkles him in there with DeMarcus Lawrence and Robert Quinn in that pass rush, especially in sub packages on long downs and distances. But as far as the Cowboys are concerned offensively, they shouldn't be concerned because Dak Prescott owns the New York Giants. That defense has been suspect all year long, especially the back end. And Dak Prescott in his last 5 games against the Giants, 13 touchdowns, no interceptions. Healthy Amari Cooper, healthy Michael Gallup, a fresh Ezekiel Elliott coming off the bye week. The Dallas Cowboys should be fine as long as this team shows up. But you can't discount this opponent in the New York Giants. You know, with divisional opponents, you got to throw the records out of the window. These two teams know each other, so there won't be any state secrets. It'll come down to who executes the best, and the Dallas Cowboys throughout the course of this season have shown more consistency in that regard.
Typically, I would, with respect to Chris Canty, disagree with a lot of that and say, divisional opponent or not, the Giants stink. Danny Dimes going to fumble the ball at least once, probably twice in this football game. The defense is awful. The Cowboys are not going to lose this game. However, the last time the Dallas Cowboys came to MetLife, what happened? They lost to what might be the worst team in football. They lost to the New York Jets in embarrassing fashion. Now, all losses to the New York Jets are embarrassing. How do I know? Because it's the only one, and they just got mollywopped by the Dolphins. We got to see last night the old, what if Alabama played an NFL team? Well, Alabama just beat an NFL team with the Dolphins beating the Jets. And so you can't put just the Cowboys laying an egg past them. But a loss tonight would be devastating for all things Cowboys because they are coming off their best win of the year against Philly. They are coming off a bye. Philadelphia was playing, I thought, a critical game against the Bears, a Bears team that had negative yards at halftime. And all of a sudden, if you were watching that game, it's like, wait, the Bears have the ball down less than a touchdown. They could come back and win that game. Philly still hasn't righted themselves. So Dallas, what they should do and what I do expect them to do, but you can't put laying an egg past them, is to come here to MetLife and take care of business, to consistently move the ball down the field on a Giants team that has shown no defensive resistance all year, and to say we are not going to let Saquon Barkley beat us. If Daniel Jones can play a clean game, if Daniel Jones and his receivers can beat man-to-man coverage, that's how you're going to have to move the ball down the field, because we're not going to let Saquon beat us. They should have the defensive game plan a lot of teams in years past have had against them. We're stacking the box to stop Zeke, but I don't think the Cowboys are going to have trouble, but I also have visions of the Cowboys being down, 24-3 or 21-3 to the New York Jets, so you can't put it past them entirely.
Here's why they need to win tonight, because look who they have coming up after this. Home for the Vikings, at the Lions, at the Patriots, Bills, Bears, Rams, Eagles. Nothing gets easier for them after this. So some momentum going into that stretch is so important for this Cowboys team, because even though they've got their guys back, you still don't really know who they are. You don't trust them week to week to go out there and say, oh, this is a definite win over the Giants. That's how I feel. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, I understand what you're saying, Jenna, and you're absolutely right. They haven't been the most consistent bunch, and so you're looking to see if they can stabilize it, and you're hoping that they found their identity in that last game that they played at home against the Philadelphia Eagles. That remains to be seen, but the one thing that I will say is this: the Dallas Cowboys are capable of playing good defense, and they're capable of running the football, and the New York Giants defense hasn't been very good in terms of being able to defend the run, especially perimeter runs. That Dallas Cowboys offensive line, the schemes that they run, a lot of GC pulls, getting guys on the edge, big offensive linemen on guys that are in the secondary blocking it up, and then allowing Ezekiel Elliott to have lanes and put him in one-on-one situations to force a defender to miss. If the Dallas Cowboys offensive line can consistently do that in this game, they shouldn't have any problem going up against the New York Giants. That remains to be seen whether the Giants can set the edge against this Cowboys run game.
And both tackles practiced on Saturday, but they were limited. For the Cowboys, when they've been fully healthy, they have been an excellent team. So a lot of this, I think, might be determined by when we see who the 7 game day inactives are, what your expectations for this game should be. But the Cowboys, for all intents and purposes, should come to MetLife tonight, and they should dominate this football game. They should stay in first place in the division, and they should come off the bye feeling good about going on a run in the second half of this year like they did the second half of last year. If they don't, then no matter what the Eagles do the rest of the year, you have to start to really reevaluate, wait, are the Cowboys even any good?
All right, we talked about 2 upsets happening yesterday. The first was the Patriots. The other one was the Packers. They entered Week 9 tied as the second best team in the NFC, with Aaron Rodgers as the front runner for MVP. But the Chargers said, not in our house and not on our watch. Held Rodgers to just 1 touchdown. Yesterday was the first time since 2013 that a Rodgers-led Packers offense was held to 50 yards or fewer in the first half. Chargers win 26-11. Here's Aaron Rodgers after that loss.
This is a good slice of humble pie for us. We're kind of rolling at 7-1 and starting to listen to the chatter maybe a little too much. So I think this will be a good thing for us. We'll regroup, go back home, and play another good team before the bye.
Nick, is Aaron right that this could somehow be good for Green Bay?
No, but if you really feel that way, 1211 Avenue of the Americas is where we work. You can send me a check for $1,000 because that's what you cost me.
You lost some money last night?
Well, I mean, give me a break. No, it's not good for them. They don't have no margin of error. Right now, if the playoffs started today, Kenny, what's the most important thing to accomplish in the regular season?
Trying to get one of those first two buys.
Exactly right. And the 1 seed is great, but it's a little overrated. The most important thing is to skip the first round.
To get a bye the first round.
So you say it all the time, and you're absolutely right. You'd rather be 1 of 4 than 1 of 6, and you can just the Patriots have had one every year for a decade. One of the reasons they make the conference championship almost every year. Playoffs started today. The Packers don't have a bye. As great as they played, as happy as everyone is, nope. Not only do you not have a bye, you are on the road in round 2 in New Orleans, if assuming you get through round 1. So no, they have no games to give up. When we talk about the Patriots, I don't think their loss was good for them, but if they had said that, I would listen to it because they do have a margin of error. They are still going to get a bye, probably the 1 seed, and maybe it's bring you back down to earth. The Packers can't be giving away football games, and the way they played offensively was indefensible. I mean, I can't remember a Packers team with a fully healthy Aaron Rodgers where they don't get ruined by turnovers, where they are so incompetent. I didn't recognize this team yesterday.
No.
And Devontae Adams coming back, you thought would be a blessing. Somehow it was a curse. So, listen, the Packers were my preseason Super Bowl pick, yours as well, out of the NFC. I'm not coming off that. But this was a terrible loss for them in what was essentially a home game. I mean, there was 30,000 people at that game. 25 had to be Packer fans. 25,000, pardon me. And so, no, I don't buy that in the NFC this year with the Niners undefeated, with the Saints only with 1 loss, with the Vikings nipping at your heels until the loss yesterday, that somehow this loss is good for Green Bay.
Well, listen, they have the adage in baseball, good pitching beats dominant hitting. Well, yesterday we saw that on display when you talk about the pass rush of the Los Angeles Chargers dominating that offensive line for the Green Bay Packers and affecting Aaron Rodgers. Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram, 6 quarterback hits between the 2 of them, but that doesn't tell the entire story. They were much more dominant than that. Aaron Rodgers was feeling the heat all day, and Matt LaFleur in that Green Bay Packers run game couldn't provide him any balance. So you saw a one-dimensional offense with a quarterback that was rattled and didn't have the time to make the plays that we're accustomed to seeing Aaron Rodgers make. So, yeah, I guess we should be surprised that they didn't have the performances that we're used to seeing them because they just came off of a huge road win Sunday Night Football against the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead. We know that this team is capable of going on the road and winning big football games, but the fact that they went 2-11 L.A. and lost to a 3-win Charger team, it's inexcusable.
And the way they lost.
And the way they lost. It was non-competitive for the most part. I mean, it was a double-digit lead for that Chargers team for the majority of the game.
And you kept waiting for them to get back in it. You kept waiting for Aaron Rodgers to go out there. Nope, punt, nope, punt, nope, punt. It seemed like that was happening every drive. You still trust this team as much as you did a week and a half ago?
You can't trust them the exact. No. Of course, you lose with any betrayal, and I consider what you did to me yesterday, Aaron Rodgers, a betrayal. You lose a little bit of trust, but I still think that the Packers, at their best, are the best team in the whole league. I do believe that, but it is concerning that we now saw at their worst. That was ugly. I mean, they were lucky to get to double digits yesterday. They needed a touchdown and a 2-point conversion in the fourth quarter to cut it to 15. Mm-hmm. That was a shocking result to me. Not just that they lost, but the way the Chargers dominated that football game when the Chargers haven't been dominating anybody this year, and to dominate them defensively. I know they have that great pass rush, but Derwin James didn't walk through that door all of a sudden. And so to me, only one first down rushing the football, no running attack whatsoever, no consistent passing game. Watching that game, that was the most shocking of all the games I watched yesterday.
And one of the things that Packers defense has to get cleaned up is their run defense, because it was awful yesterday as well. They've got to fix that. That's starting to become a trend now, and that's going in the wrong direction. If they are going to be a playoff contending team, at some point you got to stop the run and then be able to earn the right to rush the passer and affect the other team's quarterback. They didn't do that yesterday, and they haven't done that in a while now this season. So I'm a little bit concerned about that defensive line and that front seven for the Packers stopping the run.
Do you worry, though, that they play Carolina next week? If they lose that game, do we start hearing some rumblings of that relationship coming up again that we haven't talked about all season?
I won't do that. I'm not going to.
Of Rodgers and LaFleur, no?
But so the relationship's been great all year. They lose a game. Nobody says anything about that.
But they lose it in really terrible form.
Right, but is anyone saying that they're mad at each other right now?
No.
No.
Right. So
it's all sunshine and roses right now.
Right. So what I won't do, other people can do it if they want. What I won't do is assign them not only an extra loss, but assign them after the loss drama that we've seen nothing come of it yet so far. The relationship has nothing to do with how they played yesterday, and unless I'm not going to call the fire department for something when there's not even an ounce of smoke, and there hasn't been yet, so I'm not going to go there with this team.
Yeah, there's no blood for the Green Bay Packers too. Everybody else in the NFC North lost yesterday as well, so they still maintain their position. But again, like you said, Nick, they're trying to get the first round bye.
The bye.
They've got to get one of those top. They've got to get one of those top 2 seeds, and we know that in the NFC, wherever that NFC Championship game is going to be played, is going to make a huge difference, whether that's Lambeau Field or in New Orleans or in San Francisco.
It's been a long time since the Packers had a bye. I think it was the 15-1 year that you guys beat them.
We went up there
was the last time they had a bye. So they have the opportunity to do something they haven't done in a very long time. Yesterday didn't ruin it for them, but yesterday was an unforced error.
Back here, first things first, now joined by former Pro Bowl linebacker Bart Scott, who somehow, some way, has got a lot to say this morning. I feel like you're bubbling over with anticipation.
Well, I got my man Chris Canty here. You know, we be doing those gymnastics, those schematic gymnastics. So I'm ready to go.
Schematic gymnastics.
We're not gonna talk about it here or maybe at all on today's show. But if you live in the New York area, you had the pleasure of watching Bart Scott eviscerate a franchise he once played for in the New York Jets. Now that will recap our full Jets commentary on the show today. If you live in New York, check it out.
Long story short, big bad.
Both teams played hard.
Yeah, both teams played hard. Good looking haircut too, Bart Scott. Trimmed it down a little bit.
I wasn't able to put the juice and berries in there today. Yeah.
Well, we now went to the place. All right, let's talk about your other former team, the Ravens. Bart, how did the Baltimore Ravens beat the New England Patriots last night?
Well, they hit him in the mouth, first of all, and don't let the RPOs fool you. It's a power running game, a gap scheme where, you know, they have 3 tight ends on there and they're able to get movement. Usually the Patriots sit in that odd front, and you can't get movement. They 2-gap and they just stand there. They become shields for those linebackers to come downhill. But they put the defensive linemen on an island, and they also put the linebackers on an island because you don't see that. So, you know, remember when the Wildcat first came in, it makes people freeze and pause. And then when you don't block a defensive lineman, he's like, whoa, I'm about to get wham blocked. So he freezes. That's all you need. You need that 1 second of hesitation. hesitation for the Ravens to get the angles. And so what you saw is the motions running away from the down safeties, and they were able to expose the Patriots' lack of team speed. When you look on that side of the ball, they have great linebackers in Jamie Collins and Dante Hightower, but they're big, they're bruisers downhill. They want to funnel everything. But when you're able to expose the edges, you're able to use the speed, and it's just more of a personnel thing. And what they did on defense, they brought in a bunch of DBs. And listen, when they went out and got Peters and Jimmy Smith and Carr, it was to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and it was also to beat the New England Patriots, because you saw complex coverages by Wink Martindale, and what they were doing is robbing. And because the Patriots don't have Devlin, they can't just put a fullback there and bludgeon them when they go with that light personnel. So they're able to play complex coverage that's able to make Tom Brady pause just for a second.
Well, that's it. Listen, you broke down very in the complex terms what happened, and I appreciate that, because you're seeing it through eyes that I don't have as far as how they did it. What they did was whoop them. Yeah. On both sides of the ball repeatedly. And to me, there were two separate moments, one Patriots offense, one Patriots defense, that were indicative of what we were going to see in this football game. Patriots offense into the first half, when New England is back in this game thanks to two brutal mistakes by Baltimore.
Right.
They have a 1st and goal from the 6. They have opportunity, run it. 4 runs, try to get 6 yards. They pass on 1st down. They pass on 2nd down. They don't run it until 3rd down. On 3rd down, they get 5 yards. They damn near get the touchdown. And what does Belichick do right before the half? Can't trust our guys to get the 18 inches we need. Kick the field goal. And then in the second half. So that's, to me, very un-Patriot-like.
Right. That is Belichick conceding that the Baltimore Ravens are the more physical team.
Are the bigger, stronger team at that moment. I think that lack of Devlin, the offensive line injuries play into that. And then to the second half, there's, to me, a very key moment where you see the Ravens. It's a 24-20 game. They have 3rd and 5. And Lamar drops back 18 yards, David Andrews, with a perfect pass. Right. Same drive, 4th and 4. Baltimore, no, we're keeping our offense on the field. Willie Snead gets 7 yards. What you're going to see on these two plays, these are the moments the Patriots have made their money the last, 20 years in either direction. Either they force the other team off the field, and keep in mind the context of the game there, where the Ravens defense has been on the field forever because they scored a defensive touchdown. They had done all this. And then the 4th and 4. The Patriots are the team that either picks those up on offense or they stop them on defense. They did none of those things. The Ravens played the Patriot game plan far better than the Patriots could yesterday.
Yeah, they played mistake-free football, and you didn't even bring up the blown coverage that the Pats had where Seth Roberts is in the end zone
and Lamar didn't see him.
Absolutely. But, I mean, the Patriots couldn't have scripted a better start to that game yesterday. And through the first 16 minutes, the Ravens couldn't have scripted a better start. Through the first 16 minutes of that game, 17-0 lead, and then the fact that on the first 3 Pats possessions, you essentially forced 3 and outs. Yep. I mean, I talked about the importance of 3 consecutive 3 and outs. That's the equivalent of a turnover when it comes to the probability scale of you being able to win a football game. So the Ravens dictated the complexion of what last night's game would look like from an execution standpoint, but also from a physicality standpoint. And Bart, we both worked in that building down there, and you know that all the signs are up in that building that talk about building a bully. And that's exactly what the Baltimore Ravens did yesterday. They went out and they bullied the New England Patriots. Yeah. And you got to give credit to Ozzie Newsome and Eric DeCosta, the general managers down there in Baltimore, for having the conviction to draft a player like Lamar Jackson.
And having to convince everyone that he was the right pick for them.
Well, here's the thing. Not having to convince everybody and having confidence in what you're doing and building a system around them. They didn't have to explain that to anybody. They decided they were going to go this direction after having a Super Bowl winning quarterback underperformed for several seasons. I think they only made the playoffs once since Joe Flacco won that Super Bowl. They had to pivot as an organization, and they believed in Lamar Jackson, and they built this entire team, not just the offense, the entire team to complement what Lamar Jackson does well.
Not only what he does well, but what he did well against a defense that many of us called was the best we've seen in years, if not ever. What he was able to do to pick apart that defense, talk about how impressive that was.
Well, it wasn't. It was not tested. We saw Cleveland run the ball well right down their throat. So we saw that they can be ran against. But when you go against the Patriots, and you understand it because you were in two buildings that didn't have a healthy fear of them, right? So all week they believe and expect to win in Baltimore because they've had success against this scheme. And what I saw was a wealth of knowledge gathered over Ray Lewis' time there, my time there, Chris' time there, understanding that the Patriots have certain staples and concepts that you must understand and take away. Everybody knows when you go from empty back to the running back in the backfield, what that play. Everybody understands that you can take Edelman out, you can put Wes Welker there. It's the same concepts with the over routes. That's why they had Earl Thomas on the other side grabbing Brady's eyes, understanding what conceptually was coming because they understand that the Patriots are more about execution than they are about trying to trick you mentally. And what you saw is a team that was able to really get on top early and really expose some of the weaknesses of that team. But it takes a special talent like Lamar Jackson. Not every team can do that. But what I witnessed is Bill Belichick taking inventory that when they play again, it's going to be different. We remember last year because now he's seen it. And you saw that the change of pace, the no huddle, and then you also saw when they came out, they had the no huddle part of it. But then what they did is with the Chargers went all DBs.
Yep.
They have to get team speed, but then because the Ravens personnel is so big, then they hit you in the mouth, and there's nothing you can do about it.
And then one last point on Lamar, because we knew all the numbers going into it. First, second-year quarterbacks had lost 21 straight against Belichick and Brady. It should be noted that while that stat's accurate, it's a little misleading.
Yeah.
Prior to that 21-game winning streak, you know what rookie quarterback beat him? Russell Wilson. He's awesome. You know what rookie quarterback, before he tore his ACL, drove down the field and put his team in the lead before the defense lost it? Deshaun Watson 2 years ago. And you know what second-year quarterback had fourth quarter lead against New England 2 separate times in 2 separate games last year? Patrick Mahomes.
Mobile quarterback.
So mobile, dynamic quarterbacks have given them problems. The Patriots offense has been able to overcome that. And so sometimes it's like, oh, these quarterbacks don't have success, or sometimes it's been they haven't had a defense to pair with it.
Right.
Last night, the Ravens had defense to pair with it.
Right.
Lamar was sensational, and this was a mismatch, at least yesterday it was.
First quarter, the Patriots only had 5 plays, and it was 209 in the first quarter. Taking them off the field, making Brady have to sit and watch as the best defense.
Didn't Lamar go in the same draft as Baker Mayfield?
Yeah,
Did Baker go when he went
first
first?
pick overall,
Lamar.
32nd pick overall.
Cleveland falls to 2-6 with the loss yesterday. Bart Scott, start with you. How disastrous has this season been for the Browns?
I mean, we've seen these self-anointed teams before. I remember remembering the Dream Team in Philadelphia.
Eagles,
and what happened is they forgot about what wins in this league. And it's the foundational pieces. It's the offense and the defensive line. And they went and got all these fancy pieces on the outside. But if you don't have the time to go through the process, that's why you see the sophomore slump with Sam Darnold. That's why you see the sophomore slump when you look at Baker Mayfield. That's why you see Lamar Jackson thriving, because they made sure that they built the team around him. And Odell Beckham, be careful what you wish for, because he actually was targeted more by Eli Manning than he is by Baker Mayfield. And the thing is, he's not Baker's guy, because we understand that Odell Beckham is the best receiver on the field, even though Landry is a good receiver. Why did Landry get 13 targets? And understanding that if you have a guy, if it's Julio Jones or if it's Devontae Adams and you're
DeAndre Hopkins, you trust him.
Right, because you have to recognize, where's my one-on-one? Hold up, they're going one-on-one with the best athlete on the field. And really, it doesn't matter. A fade is the one-on-one coverage, nobody over the top. And what did he do? He forced it to Landry because teams know that's his guy. 13 targets by Landry, and they had a robber coverage.
What do you mean it's not? What do you mean Odell's not his guy?
He's not his guy. He had tremendous chemistry last year when he came in as a rookie with Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry is a guy that has 100 catches a year.
So he trusts him.
Right. But we're acting like Odell Beckham is just a vertical receiver. He has the same skill set and then some that Jarvis Landry has. So you're going to throw into double coverage to your guy, and meanwhile the best athlete and the best player on the field is one-on-one coverage. That was disrespectful. Everybody out there knew that Odell was going to not get jammed.
Well, here's what it comes down to, Bart, and you're absolutely right. You have to find a way to be able to get the ball to Odell Beckham. He's your best player on the offensive side of the ball, probably the best player on that team.
And he was the only one having a good game yesterday.
And he was the only one that played well yesterday. yesterday. So, I mean, I understand that coverage, by and large, is going to dictate where the ball goes, the quarterback going through his progression, going to the right matchup. But in a gotta-have-it situation, you have to find a way to get number 13 the ball. And that's in part on Freddie Kitchens. He's got to scheme some things up in that situation.
That's the perfect play call right there. That was what you call a sail route. They flooded the zone, right? You look at Chubb going up the sideline. Odell's behind him, and they're bringing a crosser away. That's three guys inside the boundary.
It's only the perfect play call if you trust Baker to take the shot.
Exactly.
And if right there, what you're saying is, even though it's fourth down, fourth in the game.
Bam, once they hand up, I'll go top.
And you can go score a touchdown right there. You can try to win the game right there. But if you want to do the safe thing, it's not the perfect play call. And if we can run it one more time, you'll see 88 is in the exact same zone as Jarvis. That's why he can be so easily doubled.
Exactly. It's a flood.
He brings someone right there. Listen.
They're flooding the zone. That would have been 4 to the left side.
This whole thing's a train wreck. And with respect to what you said, Bart, and I agree with you on the fundamentals, the Browns built this team outside in instead of inside out. I agree with you on that. But ultimately, we can say offensive line play is the foundation of this league. The foundation of this league, first and foremost, how good is your coach? How good is your quarterback?
Yes.
Everything else on your team can be a house on fire, as it was Seattle a couple years ago when they are tearing it down to the studs.
Yeah.
The worst they ever were. 9 wins. You know why? Coach, quarterback. Right now in Cleveland, they might have the worst coach in the NFL, and they have a quarterback who is playing as poorly as any quarterback in the NFL. You could have Anthony Munoz next to Will Shields. Now, if your coach and your quarterback can't figure things out, like it's 3rd and 1, do I trust my quarterback to check out of a run that's drawing dead, which is what led to the 4th and 4, and if the coach Freddie Kitchens needs to be able to think a play ahead, which is, okay, obviously on 3rd and 1, we think we're going to get it. If we don't get it, that means we either got 0 yards or lost yards.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Instead, they let the whole play clock run down and then burn a timeout, which makes that 4th down play, which was critical already, it's the game now.
Right.
Because you have no timeouts left, and there's 2:45 left in the football game. It is a cartoonish level of incompetence on a week-to-week basis by these Cleveland Browns.
You mentioned that they need to find a way to get Odell the ball more. We criticized Freddie Kitchen a couple weeks ago when he went in and said, okay, we're going to come up with plays for you, Odell, as opposed to saying, all right, what's the smart play here, as like Nick was saying. Let's read 2 or 3 plays ahead. Isn't that the problem, is they're trying too hard to find the right play? Like, he's trying too hard, Freddie Kitchens, to be everyone's buddy in that locker room. We'll get you the ball more. What do you want to do, Baker? Odell, we need to get you involved, as opposed to coaching sort of from a distance as to what the best thing for this offense is?
Well, sometimes you can get in trouble trying to be too fine, to be too exact, and looking for the absolute perfect play call. I think you got to start with your players first. Think about the situation. Okay, how can I get them the ball? Then you go into your playbook and you figure out, okay, based on what we've seen, the coverages, the fronts that we're seeing from the opposing defense, then we'll go about trying to find the exact right play call. But in that 4th and 4 situation, to have Odell Beckham Jr. running down the sideline on the street.
No safety over the top.
But Bart, what I'm saying is, if you don't trust him, like Nick said, if you don't trust Baker Mayfield to make that throw, if you don't trust your quarterback to make that read, then you've got to call something else. Even if it's a one-on-one situation with the corner, give him something at the sticks that he feels better about. What's wrong with a back shoulder hitch right there?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no good defense for the perfect back shoulder hitch right at the sticks. You could have ran that there, a fade stop right there. You could have done that. My issue with this is this. Baker Mayfield, he's made a lot of mistakes throughout the course of this season. Yesterday was the first game that he didn't throw the ball to the opposing team, so I'll give credit to that Cleveland Browns offense and to their quarterback for that. But they were 1 for 5 in the red zone. You're not going to win a lot of games if you're getting down to the scoring area and you're not coming up with touchdowns and you're settling for field goals. But that speaks to the lack of overall execution that we've seen from this team throughout the course of the season, and that comes back to coaching.
Yeah, well, it's spiraling out of control, right? And we've seen this before. We see teams get anointed, and they don't understand what's coming when you're the target now. You know, they thought they arrived at 7-9-1. It's like, bro, you're the Browns. You haven't won anything consistently. You won the offseason. In the offseason, those don't equate to wins, and they don't have the chemistry that they need because there's not a lot of self-sacrifice that has to take place when you stack a team full of superstars. who's the guy that's going to stand up and get it fixed? Who's the guy that's going to hold everybody accountable if it's not coming from the head coach?
Cincinnati, Atlanta, Washington, Miami, the New York Jets. What do those 5 teams have in common? The only 5 teams in football with a worse record than the Cleveland Browns. It's inexcusable. It is inexcusable for them to right now, at the midway point of the season, be record-wise the 27th best team in football.
With that team.
Well, no, that's why it's inexcusable. And, I mean, Freddie Kitchens is not going to be the head coach next year, and that will help, but that ain't going to fix things. They also got to figure out what has happened to their quarterback, and they got to, there's a long...
He's punch drunk. Once you start getting hits and you start seeing ghosts and you starting to look down and see the rush because you don't believe. Come on, Greg Robinson is their left tackle. I was excited about the Ravens game yesterday because I said, how is Newhouse a left tackle in this league and starting on a team that has the expectations that the Patriots have? You're only as strong as your foundation.
It starts with the coach, though. I mean, you're talking about somebody at the start of the 2018 season that was a position coach. He was coaching running backs. He elevated to offensive coordinator on an interim basis, and then they decided because Baker had success in the second half of his rookie year, we're going to make this guy the head coach. It's like giving a teenager the keys to a Ferrari. How does that make sense?
All right, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens hosting Tom Brady and the Patriots. Lamar gave the Pats headaches all night, throwing 1 touchdown and rushing for 2. On the flip side, Tom Brady struggled, posting his second lowest passer rating in a game this season. And the Patriots uncharacteristically lost the turnover battle. New England handed their first loss of the season. They never led once. Here's Bill Belichick after the game.
Give them credit. They're better than we were tonight. Certainly the better team. And, we just all got to do a better job. So I don't know what else there is to say.
Also the most that Belichick's ever said anytime, ever, to any human. Chris, who would win in a postseason rematch here between these two teams, Ravens and Patriots?
Well, obviously, a lot of it depends on where they play the game. But, I mean, assuming that the Patriots are able to hold on to the number 1 seed and they got to go into Foxborough, the Patriots have to avoid making the mistakes that they made last night. And what I mean by that is obviously the turnovers, but also giving the Baltimore Ravens new life from penalties. The Ravens had 4 first downs from Patriots penalties. They don't play football like that. You saw that in the first drive. Shalik Calhoun jumps off sides on the field goal.
That was shocking.
Gives them a new set of downs. And then, of course, you know what Baltimore is going to do. 4 downs inside the 5. They're going to ram it down your throat. And that's exactly what they did. But, I mean, unless the Patriots are able to find some answers to that run game from the Ravens, I don't see the result changing because the Ravens did exactly what they wanted to do in terms of using the ground game to control the pace and the complexion of that ball game.
And I understand the Patriots might have Isaiah Wynn back at some point. He's already designated to return from IR.
And N'Keal Harry may be
they just
coming
brought him back. Yeah.
Yep.
And those 2 players have one thing in common. We have no idea if they're good NFL players.
Yep.
Never seen N'Keal Harry. Seen Isaiah Wynn for 5 minutes. And, I mean, I understand they're both first-round picks.
Yep.
And they both were great college players. We have no idea if there's some great reinforcement coming along the way. Meanwhile, the Ravens just getting better now. Like, you just got Jimmy Smith back. We know he's a very good NFL player. They just traded for Marcus Peters. We know in Kansas City he was a great NFL player. With the Rams, he was not a good NFL player. Mm-hmm. We'll see what he is with Baltimore. Man, Earl Thomas sure looked like first ballot Hall of Famer Earl Thomas that he was before he suffered a couple broken bones in Seattle. And for the Patriots to be the favorite in a rematch, they have to systemically change some things that happened yesterday. And I get it. I already know Patriot fans are going to say one of 2 things. One is, man, if not for the fumble 70 yards by Humphrey, we're taking the lead. Sure. And if not for a muffed punt by Baltimore, that thing's 24-0.
Yep.
20 minutes into the game. Like, Baltimore was crushing New England early. It took back-to-back fumbles by Baltimore to get New England back in that football game, and then New England paid the favor back. But here's the other thing I'm already hearing. Well, we all know that Belichick is not going to show you his full arsenal in the regular season when you might have to play this team in the postseason. Man, when you're undefeated and you're facing the only 2-loss team in your conference other than the Bills, that is a critical game. They could have eliminated the Ravens from the 1 seed conversation. They could have given the Ravens 3 losses. They would have had 0 and the tiebreaker. That's a 4-game lead with 8 to play.
And they have another date with the other team that has 2 losses in the AFC, the Buffalo Bills.
And they've already beat them once.
Yep.
And so the idea that the Patriots weren't giving their full effort yesterday or their full... No. They could have all but wrapped up the AFC last night. Now, all of a sudden, you're like, oh, after the bye, what does New England have coming up? Oh, in a few weeks after that, they play Houston. They play Kansas City. Before that, they have Dallas and Philly. The Patriots gave it their best shot last night and got whooped. Now, I don't know that we will see this in the postseason. If we do, based on what we saw yesterday, you have to say, barring a systemic change on either team, the Ravens would be the favorite. The Ravens, to me, were the favorite going into last night. The Ravens were the more tested team. And we are going to get to find out if I was right about New England. When everyone had their power rankings the same as the standings, undefeated team, they have to be number 1. If you don't have number 1, it's just a hot team. Watch the games. The Patriot offense has been mediocre all year. They faced real resistance twice this season. Against Buffalo, they scored 1 touchdown. Against Baltimore, they got dominated. This is an excellent defense that got exposed a bit yesterday.
Yes.
And an offense that is leaky with a 42-year-old quarterback who, dare I say, right now has not been a force multiplier for them. So who do I think would be the favorite in the rematch? The team with the better quarterback, the team with the better roster, the team with a more explosive offense? That's Baltimore.
I would argue that not just their defense, but their offense and their quarterback yesterday got exposed. I think Bill Belichick was the only one that we know exactly who he is coming in, going out. Russell Wilson and the Seahawks were hosting the Bucs yesterday. Russ showed why he's one of the best in the game. 378 yards, 5 touchdowns. Seahawks needed every yard, though. They hold on to just barely beat the Bucs in overtime, 40-34. Nick, did Russ make an MVP statement?
Canny, I'm with you on this. He's been making it all year.
Yep.
There was, through a couple weeks of the season, Patrick Mahomes looked like he was going to repeat his league MVP. Then all of a sudden, he had a couple statistically mediocre games, and he got hurt. And Aaron Rodgers had, a few weeks ago, I think 8 touchdowns in 2 games. And Deshaun Watson, as of late, has surged. And Lamar, certainly as of last night, has gotten himself in the conversation. But there's one guy from week 1, we just finished week 9, has been right there the whole time. And it's Russell Wilson. He's been spectacular. He's made 1 big mistake all season long. It was the pick 6 to
Marcus Peters.
Marcus Peters against Baltimore. He's doing it with a motley crew of receivers. He had turned Will Dissly, a tight end, into a real weapon. Will Dissly pops his Achilles, no problem. You got DK Metcalf, who can't change direction, no problem. I'll throw it to him in the right direction. And when you watch Russ play, Canny, it seems like the catches seem impressive by the receivers because it's in close windows, but every time it seems like it's hitting the receiver in the perfect position every time. He's playing, this is a first ballot Hall of Famer playing the best football of his career. So yeah, he has kept himself atop the MVP power rankings, if you will.
Yeah, he's earning every penny of that $35 million a year extension that they gave him this offseason. But, I mean, they gave him that for a reason because you always use the term force multiplier. That's exactly what Russell Wilson is. If you talk to receivers that play with really good quarterbacks, they talk about how when the quarterback throws the ball, right before it gets to him, the ball slows down a little bit. That's exactly what seems like happens with Russell Wilson in the passes that he makes to his receivers. And he's got a special type of chemistry with Tyler Lockett. You see in gotta have it type situations. He's always looking for Lockett. He's kind of replaced Doug Baldwin in that regard. But in terms of judging quarterbacks and judging who the most valuable player is, all you have to look at it is this. The competitive greatness of the individual player, being at your best when your best was required. Yesterday, in overtime, Russell Wilson, 5 of 8, 70 yards, and a touchdown. But even before that, setting up an opportunity for Jason Myers to have a 40-yard field goal, which he missed. But then the team not flinching because they know they have number 3 under center. that speaks to the importance of what Russell Wilson brings to that team. It's a confidence factor that Seattle Seahawks team is playing with right now. And listen, they didn't return the favor for the LA Rams. Rams lost at home to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was a situation based on the deficit that the Seahawks had in that first half, being down 21-7. They could have easily lost that game, but they found a way to hang in there, and then Russell made the requisite plays at the end.
I didn't, as we've joked about on the show, I did not have a good day gambling yesterday. One of the few wins I had was Russell Wilson, Seattle Seahawks. And I got to tell you, even down 21-7, I was never concerned. As long as the Seahawks were going to get the ball, I felt great about it. They were down 21-7, and now the Seahawks even's playing terribly. And what does Russ do? Leads back-to-back touchdown drives and the 2-point conversion. Tied 27 apiece. A 3-play, 75-yard drive with the huge play to DK Metcalf. You mentioned after the Seahawks give up another touchdown. I was worried Tampa might go for 2 in that spot because they couldn't stop Seattle. They kicked the extra point. Russell, in less than a minute, gets him in chip shot field goal range. Missed. So win the coin toss, drive him right down the field. He is just in total control at all times. This is that next level of play that I think guys can only get to when they have the talent, the confidence, and the experience, where it does appear that for Russell, everything is slowing down. And I don't think DK Metcalf's a superstar. Maybe he will be one day, but not as a rookie. I don't think Tyler Lockett's a superstar, but his production has been superstar level because Russ puts them in the best position every single week. He was sensational.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Chris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.